All right, we are live. Welcome to another episode of Elevate Your Grind, brought to you by the Cannabis Lab. Like I said yesterday, folks, we seem to be doing one of these just about every day. We've got a great backlog of guests that have awesome information they want to share with you. Today, we've got a great guest. He is a staple in the C-Lab community. He's been a very good friend to Cannabis Lab. He always represents his company there, and his company is one of the biggest in the state. So today we have somebody from Trulieve, and I'm really excited to talk to him because when the COVID-19 crisis hit, Trulieve to me was one of the companies as an outsider that didn't let it hinder them at all. There wasn't a hitch in their step. As soon as this came in, they had delivery going, they had plenty of locations going, and all their education, which they do a ton of, seemed to get moved online. And they launched their series of True Talks. I have someone here who manages a lot of the in-person education that Trulieve does, and really interested to see how things are going with him. So please welcome my guest today, Dee Williams, event coordinator from Trulieve.
Hey, how are you? So glad to be on. Thanks for that excellent introduction. Better than I could have said myself. Um,
Uh,
I I really love working with Cannabis Lab. I think that it is uh, such a great opportunity to just to be able to be out here and speak.
No, absolutely. And Trulieve has been an awesome supporter of Cannabis Lab. I know I use the term awesome a lot, but when everybody comes together and they truly make C Lab that the group it is awesome. And you and I spoke a little bit before we got on this podcast about the swag. And if you go to any Cannabis Lab event, the amount of Trulieve swag that you can pick up is awesome. And I wish I had him here on the desk, but you guys actually give out a thing of rolling papers that has the filters right in it. And let me tell you, if those are on a table, nobody else is getting any because I'm scooping all of them. So I appreciate what you guys bring. But I want to kind of get into, as much as I'm trying to lobby for more free stuff from you, I want to get into what you're doing because Trulieve has seemed to have not missed a beat with COVID-19. Your delivery process is great. Your website's great. The True Talks, I've been tuning into as many as I can. There seem to be a ton. With you being an events coordinator, how has your role shifted given the state of things right now?
Oh, that's an awesome question. Everybody has had to make changes. Uh, Over and over and over. You see things that were traditionally done in person are now done online. You know what I mean? And I speak to some of my team members, and one of the crazy things that we're always chatting about is that this stuff was always here. You know what I mean? Everyone's like, "Oh wow, Microsoft Teams, this is such a great platform. Man, Zoom, look at all the things that you can do." But it was just all right here, hanging out in this digital age. But now it has come to the forefront, and everyone's just using it up. So, like you said, we moved online. We rolled out True Talks, which is, I think, something unique and fun that we'll continue to do even after COVID. I think that True Talks is something where we're giving something back to the community. If you got to see our last one on mindful meditation, um, we hung out. We did some breath work. We really found out how to center yourself right there online on a live on Facebook. If you tuned in while I had my eyes closed and I was doing my breathing techniques, I mean, sorry, but I was into it, and it was something that I said I was going to implement with my family, and I did. Later on that evening, like me and my 5-year-old daughter, we did some breath work together, and it was really cool. And I think that it's neat that we can bring forward tools like that with the partners that we've already had.
So I know I said I wanted to get into your story a little bit, but just with that little tidbit you gave me a little bit, one of the things I've noticed, and maybe you can comment on it, right? I saw this with Ricky Williams. We saw it with some of the other MMTCs that we talked to, but it really seems like mindfulness and being centered and yoga to a point, because it is about the spirituality and mindfulness, and cannabis go hand in hand. It's an amazing relationship. And I can tell you personally, yoga when I was younger, when I was an athlete, believe it or not, you can't tell by looking at me now. yoga was the last thing on my mind. And even Ricky said that when he was playing football. Now both of us are cannabis users. Clearly, Ricky went much further in his football career than I did. But yoga and that mindfulness and the meditation, we're a lot more open to it now, a lot more accepting. I mean, it's his lifestyle. Even for me, someone who fancies themselves as a stereotypical guy's guy, it's something that I want to do often. You look at other former NFL players like Eben Britton, and he does the podcast with Mike Tyson, and how he's all about that. So, what do you think it is that cannabis and this mindful spiritualness, this meditation going hand in hand? Do you see that often?
I feel like I do. I feel like everybody has their thing. May it be meditation, may it be pharmaceutical meds. Some people it's alcohol, illicit drugs. Some people's it's cannabis. But everyone has their something that brings them down or brings them to their center, and it can be in so many different formats. This mindfulness and meditation thing is not anything new. It's been around for a really long time, and I think just sitting down, taking a minute, is something that we have all gotten very, very far away from. It's go, 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 hustle, 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 and there is time to step back and take a look. And I think cannabis does that for some people, where you can kind of turn down the background noise, focus on your breath, how your body's functioning, and get back to center. So yeah, I think cannabis has a definite place within
Yeah.
mindful meditation and yoga.
No, I love the connection because listen, part of what we do here, and listen, we all have our own opinions on cannabis and everything else and how we use it. And it is really a personal choice. But you see a lot more people consuming cannabis and wondering about spirituality or yoga or being centered versus alcohol, where some people will consume alcohol and look, hey, can I kick that guy's ass? He's a little bit bigger than me. So, I think I think we're all on the same path here. But not to go too much off on a tangent. So D, you work with Trulieve. Trulieve is, obviously one of the leaders in Florida. You have more stores than anybody else in Florida. I've been looking at the OMMU, and the amount of medicine that you're putting out to the community right now is extremely impressive. I commend you guys for making sure that the patients in Florida have access to their medication through this. Trulieve didn't exist 5 years ago, 6 years ago. It
So
was an
great.
idea. It wasn't even an idea. So how did what were you doing beforehand, and how did you get involved with Trulieve?
That is a big question. So I'll give you the shortest story possible. Probably about 5 years ago, I was in the hospitality industry. I was a director of banquets for a Wyndham hotel, and I was loving life. Hospitality has always been my thing. I was able to work with an amazing group of people and service conference guests, weddings, all these kind of things, right? I call myself a people person, and I just like, elevating someone's experience. Shortly after that, I got sick. I came down with congestive heart failure. It was a long, long journey, a lot of time in the hospital. I ended up having to have a left I can't talk. A left ventricle assist device, or an LVAD heart pump. You might remember it. Denny had one from Grey's Anatomy back in the day, so that's how everybody kind of remembers it. It was basically an external internal heart pump. My son called me a cyborg. I was plugged into the wall. I had to carry around a battery pack that literally worked my heart for me. That was as a bridge to a transplant. So I ended up having a heart transplant. And moving past that, I had a very hard time with recovery. I was hitting this wall where it was a little too tough for me to do my physical therapy. It would be one day in PT and then 2 days in bed. So I wasn't getting anywhere. one day I decided to try cannabis to help with that, and I was able to overcome that hump. I was able to recover faster. I was able to push past the pain that was there during recovery, and I'm able to utilize it now to deal with post-transplant symptoms. So that's what really got me into cannabis. Um, when I was sitting at home, still on disability, I was shopping for products on my site, Trulieve.com, and I was talking to my wife about going back to work, mindlessly kind of scrolling down to the bottom of the page. I literally looked down and my cursor was on the careers little button on the bottom. I clicked it, I applied, and I received a job with Trulieve not too long after that.
Very cool.
Yeah, it was great. It felt kind of serendipitous to come and work for the company that was able to provide me with that relief when I needed it.
Yeah, to me, there's no better story than, being a fan of the company before you go work for them, right? So as someone in your position, they made a major impact on your life. And part of the reason why we do this podcast, and I know there's a lot of parts or reasons why we do this, but is to educate people on how they can get involved in the cannabis industry. And not to oversimplify what you did, but you went to the bottom of the page and clicked on the careers button, right? Um, Listen, I can say that you were a pioneer. But it was simple. You went to the bottom of the page and you're like, I love this company. I'm passionate about it. I think I can help them do great things. And that's awesome to hear. So you come on, you're working with Trulieve. Um, did you join Trulieve as the events coordinator? Was that your initial role, or was it just, I just got to get my foot in the door with this company because I think they're doing amazing things?
So that's kind of been my MO for everything I've done, every job that I've done. I've always said, hey, if you're ever going to be the manager, the CEO, the leader, you got to do all those other jobs first, right? So when I started my bartending when I was younger, I did it all. I washed dishes, I cooked, I served, I managed. I did it all before I landed where I wanted to be. So same thing with Trulieve. The first thing I applied for was it was a product coordinator, which is maybe assistant manager type position at store
Okay.
number 7. Oh yeah, so I opened the
Ooh.
Orlando store at store number 7. Yeah, it sounds so
Like
weird.
33, that was like what, like 33
Yeah,
stores ago, or
there
more,
were,
like,
I think 48, I think,
don't
with
don't
Titus.
make me do math on Facebook Live, please.
Never, never,
I
never.
will never get another job again if you make me do math on here.
But so cool to be involved that early on in the stages. It
Yeah.
was so different back then. One of the things we will say at conferences is, like, cannabis years are like dog years. We're here and we're making changes so fast, and legislation is changing and everybody has to pivot. So you'll go through an entire marketing cycle in 2 months, instead
Yeah.
of 2 years, in cannabis land. So I started there. Within that position, I was able to do delivery. I was able to handle patients at the registers. I had to deal with the OMMU and the registry, and making sure milligrams are being deducted properly. That was a huge part of my position. Was reviewing and making sure that, hey, are your milligrams being deducted correctly, and auditing and making sure that everything's being done legally and safely. Um, and then just being able to manage the floor, lower wait times. There's a lot going on inside each and every Trulieve, and then having so many of them, it's a large task to have to
No,
comprehend.
and I couldn't think of a more perfect person to really do some of the tasks that you did. If you think about, what you just told me, you kind of balance the fine line between advocating for patients and making sure they have what they need, but also making sure that they're getting it compliant and the right way, which, is what our industry needs more than anything, right? We've been given this opportunity to show the world, to show the state, cannabis is medicine, and if it's done properly, it's going to put a lot of good into the world. And I love the fact that someone like you is out there making sure that that's happening. You have mentioned cannabis years being like dog years, right? And you're not the first person to say this on this
Right.
podcast, and I couldn't agree with you more, because I always love talking to people, and I get people reach out to me all the time. And I don't know if you get the same thing, but they want to get involved with cannabis, and they're very successful in what they do in their own right. And they think they can just come into the cannabis space and they're going to just crush it. And maybe they will. But, a lot of people say, hey, the cannabis industry is a little bit different. And we've heard that before. We've heard that, but it really is, right? I've only been in the cannabis industry a year, but I feel like I've spent half my life here. I don't know if you experience the same thing.
Most definitely. I feel like being in events and just being on the ground at conferences and at meetups and so many social events. Well, that's a question that I get every single event. Is like, hey man, I want to get into the industry. I want to be a grower. I want to open my own dispensary. And I'm like, hey man, let's do it. You know what I mean? Like we're gonna need it. That's what's going to help level the market, help make legislative change. Is more players in the field, but you got to start somewhere, right? So I always tell people, please apply online. If you want to click that careers tab, great. If you want to go on Indeed.com, Trulieve is hiring right now like crazy. We've picked up deliveries and online pickups. Orders have doubled and tripled. And not just that, I encourage people to think about all the other secondary and tertiary jobs that are within this company.
Mhm.
Accounting, marketing, social media, like all these things have to come together, legal. That's why I love working with Cannabis Lab, because there's so many great professionals in there. And I feel like we're doing the best job, like here at Cannabis Lab, breaking stigmas, like showing successful lawyers and businessmen and women that are doing the thing with cannabis in tote. You know what I mean? I think it's really cool.
No, 100%. And that's really what attracted me to Cannabis Lab to begin with. I mean, there are other cannabis groups, and, you know, I, I do whatever I can to try to avoid the stigma, or try to avoid the quote unquote stoner culture. Not that there's not a place for that in this industry, but it's the craft brew snobs are also the smallest part of the alcohol industry, right? And I think Cannabis Lab brings a level of professionalism, folks like yourself that have a true reason why they like cannabis. And like you said, we're a group of professionals that enjoy cannabis, want to see the advancement of the industry, and we're doing it the right way within the regulations that were put in front of us. I mean, we have, and I want to apologize to Ricardo Alvarez. I mentioned that I knew somebody from the department that was a member of C-Lab and on our date board. I forgot your name, and I knew you were going to kill me, but I am mentioning you by name now. So sorry about that. But we have the department in the group with us, right? So obviously we're doing something right. You're a staple at most Cannabis Lab events, but as an events coordinator, I'm sure you get to see a ton of events across the state. What's your daily, not even daily job, but what is your job like being, we'll call it an advocate for Trulieve, because that's essentially what you are. You go around the state telling people about a great company that's doing, putting a ton of good into the state. What's that like, and what are your experiences?
So first of all, there is a massive team involved. You know what I mean? We have a slew of community educators that are going out there and they're speaking to doctors every single day, weekends included, nighttime, morning. When a physician has a question, they know they can call on our physician education team to answer that, whether it's about the registry or if it's about a new product that's out there, or a route of administration. We like to be there to help. We'll study the laws, we'll study the legislative change and find out what the best way to do things are, and we'll try and help. So I think it's really neat to have those people involved with events as well. Having those tight connections with the doctors, they are the ones that are also going to be at concerts. They're the ones that are going to be at the pride parades. We did a slew of pride parades. I want to say about 6 or 7 last year, and they were amazing. Just another group of people that have had to deal with a stigma and oppression all through time, and just coming together over love of people and of cannabis. We were well accepted in the community, and we were able to do it all over the state. We were lucky to be able to do that. So things like that are something that'll be on my plate. And then also going to physician symposiums and listening to peer mediations and doctors speak on the endocannabinoid system. The first time I got to hear Dr. Raphael Meshulam speak about cannabis and the production of anandamide in your body, holy moly, I just couldn't believe like the pure science that was behind this plant. And it's a blend of you need scientists, you need horticulturists, you need some hippie love in there too, you know what I mean, to make it all work. And I've been able to see that at each and every one of these events. Some of them might be music festivals as well. Some of them are Chamber of Commerce events where we get to sit down next to Coca-Cola and Pepsi and trade stories about supply chain. And it is a very, very interesting time to be alive. And getting to see that is a blessing.
So many tangents I want to go down off that little last piece of information that you gave me. So we'll try to approach these one at a time. But,
Okay.
I don't think everybody else sees it, but you probably see me looking over to my right every so often. I also have to produce this podcast while we're hosting it, but I just want to let you know, I happen to see the Facebook Live feed that you're on. And dude, the amount of hearts going across the screen right now when you're on, you've got some fans out there. So I just want to give you props there. I don't know if I've been able to see that before, but I just looked over and like you couldn't even see the video. There were so many hearts going across the screen. So you've got some love in our audience right now.
Thanks, thanks, Todd. Thanks, peeps. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. So hopefully that didn't distract me from the things I wanted to talk about. Oh, you had talked about doing the pride parades, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, you had mentioned in the beginning that Microsoft Teams and everything else, I talk about this a little bit, but the way that I service the cannabis industry is through information technology. And we were out visiting a client of ours in Colorado, and they were dealing with a potential investor, and we were kind of helping out with that meeting. And one of the things that they had mentioned is that the cannabis industry is one of acceptance, right? A place where people who may not fit in elsewhere, and I don't want to use this in a derogatory sense, but it's a place for misfits, right? People that are not accepted, people that are a little different, no matter what your race is, your gender, your sexual orientation, if you have tattoos, if you have piercings. Our industry just seems to be a whole lot more accepting. Now, obviously everybody can see who I am. I'm a hidden minority. I am Jewish, but I'm also a white person. So it's hard for me to comment on this, but do you believe that our industry is like that? Because I believe it. I just, no one's going to believe it coming from me.
I do. I can assimilate with that, misfit toys kind of mentality. Anyone that has experienced any type of discrimination or oppression for who they are or what they do can relate. You know what I mean? I have, and I'm sure we all have that friend that just doesn't get it and will never get it. And they still just think cannabis is bad, no matter how many stories they've seen, no matter how many specials were on TV. They were just brought up that certain way, and that's just the way it is. And that's going to be true with so many other demographics. Some people you're just not going to change. But it's not. I don't think that's the goal. We're not here to change people. We're here to change legislation. We're here to make it available to people that want it, and the people that don't, have a great day. You know what I mean? And I think that's a mentality that we can all kind of adopt, that, cannabis has never tried to push itself on anyone, and just trying to be seen and heard.
No, 100%. And that's one of the reasons why I love this industry is because you meet so many great people, and I do believe that everybody's accepting. It's funny. This is an experience. I don't know if I've shared it on this podcast before, but before joining this podcast and working with Robert and C Lab and David RCP, I ran a small event series, and we actually had Ted Chung at one of our events, and that's really the first time I heard of the cannabis industry being one of acceptance. And one of the things Ted said, he goes, no matter who I go up to, and whether they're black, white, Asian, whatever, and they're smoking a joint, and I've asked, can I get a hit of that? He goes, nobody's ever said no to me.
Nobody said no.
Now's a different time. Now everybody, share your own stuff. Don't share your stuff because we got something going on. But when
Correct,
things get
correct.
back to normal,
Now's the time to be
nobody
safe.
said no. Yeah.
Wow.
So
So
that.
I experienced that a lot, right? So some of these events, you might see some medicating, right? And I've seen some people that if you just look over to your left or you look over to your right and you look at the two people that are talking or the group of people that have gathered around, cannabis that's bringing them together, and there is no way that they would have ever spoken. They would have never met, they would have never had those interactions just because they run in different circles with different people, if
Yeah.
it wasn't for cannabis. And I think that's an amazing thing. You know what I mean? Like, forget, bars. When cannabis consumption lounges are, allowed everywhere, it's going to be a whole different story. You know what I mean? No one's going to run out of there and go try and hurt anybody. It'll just be good times, laughs, and an Uber ride home.
Well, I got a little business proposition for you. When those consumption lounges open up, I think you and I should start a nice food truck to start parking outside of all these consumption lounges.
Call me, let's do it.
So I want to get back. So you talked, we talked about the inclusion, and that was really important to me, but you also had talked about, the science behind the cannabis industry. And I think there's so much education to be had because it truly is a science. We do have an endocannabinoid system, that there are things that naturally happen in your body. There are natural receptors in your body. And I can tell you, I'm a complete novice when it comes to education, but there's so many parts of the education. So I'm interested in seeing how you handle it because, like you said, there's the endocannabinoid system or cannabinoid system, and I don't know the proper pronunciation of that. There are the terpene profiles. There is the classification indica and sativa, which most people tend to know. There's the different cannabinoids like CBD and CBG and THC and THCA and et cetera, et cetera.
God, you
And
got it
then
going on. Not bad.
I read a few articles. Now, if you want to ask me to define what any of those do or say, I'm going to pretend the connection got lost. But beyond that, beyond just going into the makeup of the plant, just as a consumer, there's an education on the difference between smokable flower, between vaporizer, between salves and tinctures and pills and oils. So, when you're approaching someone who may be new to cannabis, or maybe their only experience is unfortunately buying something off the black market in their younger days, where do you start? Do you start with the type of products that are out there, or do you start with what type of cannabis they should be using and then go into the form that they want to consume it in?
That is a huge question, you know what I mean? And it's something that I do get to deal with, back when we were out there, I got to deal with on an everyday basis. You start that conversation, I believe, with an honest question. Like where are you in your cannabis journey? You know what I mean? Is this your first time? Or are you just checking it out because you heard about the CBDs on the radio? Or are you, you lived in California for 12 years and you know exactly what you're looking for and when you want it, and you want to know how you can get it the cheapest, right? So once you find that question out, and that 1 to 10 scale, how cannabis savvy are you? You can really dial in and find out what the person is looking for. At Trulieve, we are not the physicians. We're not the doctors. So we can't say, oh, you have multiple sclerosis, please try X strain in this format. one thing that we tend to always correct someone on is the use of the word prescription over recommendation. A prescription, a doctor will write out for you, and you will go pick it up in a bag, and you'll take it 3 times a day with food at this many milligrams because of your height and your weight. Recommendation is going to be, yes, this person should utilize cannabis. It can help them with their ailment. Um, the amount that they need it in is going to be up to them and their body. The format that they take it in is going to be up to them and their body. I constantly would tell people, don't leave the answer in the store. Hey, I don't want to smoke anything. Cool. You don't have to smoke anything. You might want to try vaporizing something. You know what I mean? It is the fastest method of intake. Some people are, if you're going to come in and say, hey, I have super high anxiety and I have panic attacks all the time, it's going to be hard to manage that with an oral dose or even a tincture. Sometimes it just might not happen fast enough for you. So don't leave the answer on the table. Try out what you need to try out. Trulieve does have the only return policy on the market, which is bananas. If your strain does not work for you or it gives you adverse effects, bring it back. Store credit, and we'll do something different. I think that's a great approach to medication, and I think pharmaceuticals could almost learn something from it. Saying, I have a bunch of pharmaceutical medication that gives me some pretty intense side effects that I would rather not have.
Yeah.
But, my doctor wrote it down on a piece of paper, says I have to take this pill, right? So I think being able to return that medicine is awesome. I'll let people know that. And then I'll let people know, they can find relief by looking at other patients. You know what I mean? We hosted Trulievers Connect, which was it was an avenue for patients to sit down with patients to say, hey, man, you have Crohn's disease? I have Crohn's disease. Let's talk about what's working for you. Is it CBG that we should be focusing on? Is it CBD? Is it taking it orally and getting it into your stomach? What's the best way to battle this Crohn's? And being able to talk to like-minded people with the same issues is a killer bonus. And if you haven't taken advantage of it before, please do. There's lots of forums out there and stuff like that. Beyond that, I'll just say trial and error and journal. If you haven't taken the moment to journal, it'll change the way you medicate, right? So I give an analogy that says, hey, man, I got a massive migraine. What am I going to do? I'm going to take some medicine, right? But should I take Pepto-Bismol? No, absolutely not. It's not going to help your headache, right? So take the right medicine for what is wrong with you, right? Even when you're using your cannabis, don't just go for some cannabis just cause. Find out, hey, is Super Lemon Haze the thing that takes away my headaches? Is Granddaddy Purple the one that gets me to sleep at night? Is Blackberry Kush, does that Delta 8 knock out my nausea? These are the things that I think more people need to think about when they're utilizing their cannabis, and they're just going to have better experiences.
That's a ton of information there. And I definitely agree with that. I think journaling and documenting your experience for yourself in some way, shape, or form is the easiest way to figure out what works for you and what doesn't. I mean,
yes, sir.
I think you and I have both experienced that. We've had, and before we probably got into the industry so much, there have been people that, and they're like, yeah, I tried it and it made my anxiety go crazy, or it made me paranoid, or it made me this. And unfortunately, I think it prevents them from coming back to try it again because they tried one strain and maybe it was a highly active sativa. And this is a lack of education on me, but I know for me, a sativa will make my mind run and will make me think about a million things. Now, when it comes to being a creative, I kind of like that, but I can imagine if I had high anxiety and paranoia that it would drive me crazy. So, I think what you're doing really helps people get the best experience with cannabis and not have that bad experience where they just weren't happy because they tried the wrong thing. Or, we've all had that experience with an edible where maybe it had more than you thought it had in it. And, I'm half hour, 45 minutes in, it's not a fun ride.
Please don't make me tell my edible story. Okay. I refuse.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be very excited when Trulieve starts carrying edibles. I know that that was just recently passed, and we're still waiting on some regulations. But I can only imagine with the type of products that you guys put out there, that I think the biggest problem is when you guys put out edibles is they're probably going to taste way too damn good, because that's the quality of product that you guys put out there.
My favorite type of edible is very, very, very low dose. I want the whole package to be 10 milligrams. You know what I mean? And I want it to be 30 gummies in there.
So that's something I actually really want to talk about, right? When you go out to a dispensary in California and you're asking between this product or that product or whatever it is, a lot of times it's like, hey, what do you recommend between this and that? And they're like, well, this one has a higher THC content. Well, being in the industry, God, people are going to crush me for this, but to me, that's one of the most uneducated answers you can give is a bud tender, right? Yeah, it has higher THC, but if somebody doesn't know what that means, oh, great, cool, I guess I'll get more stoned. I, on the other hand, have been trying to experiment a lot with more lower dose THC products,
Sure, yes, sir.
more kind of ratioed stuff, because I truly think when you're looking at this at a medication, to be able to potentially, microdose something is really going to give you the most benefit to keep you baseline, right? And I don't know if you kind of see that same thing, but I'm just making the assumption based off the edible comment you made.
I do. That's definitely my way to medicate. To each their own, I'll always say. I know people that need 50 milligrams 6 times a day, and that's them, and they are good. They're not, pardon my term, stony baloney. They are
Yeah.
clear as crystal. That is how they operate. Myself, I am, 2 milligrams at a time is kind of my favorite. I keep it low and slow. I utilize different methods, whether it's going to be an oral or I love patches. I love tinctures. Inhaled, it goes a little bit too cerebral for me, so I kind of stay kind of back from it. Inhale products a lot until the late evening, but my pain, as long as I keep up with my regimen, my pain is handled. I came out of surgery with a lot of neuropathy pain, and I know a lot of people can relate. And neuropathy is something really crazy that people have to deal with. It's a pain that is always with you. It does not go away no matter what medication they give you. And some of the medications that are handed over pharmaceutically are literally psych meds that are meant for something else that just happen to reduce neuropathic pain. And that sucks. You know what I mean? So I'm blessed to be able to have a couple of methods with some topical and some oral dose that keeps me clear headed, that I don't feel like I'm walking on nubs that are on fire.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible.
I think those type of stories are really good, because the people don't realize, when you're talking about consuming cannabis from a medical standpoint, it's not like you said, it's not just smoking a joint and smoking the whole thing or half of it or whatever. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are the times where people will want to get stony baloney, on a Saturday night, you got nothing to do. Super Troopers is on TV and you've got a nice microwavable pizza, have at it. Right. But for every day-to-day life, everybody still has to work and everything else. So it's awesome that there are options out there.
Mhm.
Now, we don't typically do this, but as I told you before the show, I was on the Trulieve website and I was looking to make a delivery order. So let's get into the Trulieve products a little bit, because I'm probably going to order something after this, and it's a lot easier to ask you while I have you than figure it
I'll
out on
put you
my
in a
own.
good spot. Yeah.
So I've got you here. You can't go anywhere. You're on my podcast, so you have to answer my questions. What are some, listen, everybody knows the flower, right? And that's traditional cannabis. That's what's been around forever. And I think a lot of people are starting to get familiar with the vaporizers, but you guys actually have a really good one with the True Stick and those cartridges. What are some of your favorite products that, obviously you mentioned a couple things that Trulieve has that you believe help you in your daily life?
Wow. Okay. So a mainstay, I believe, I want to say almost every True Lever out there has a True Stick. That True Pod system is mint. It's great. It's one of the things that it just lasts forever. It feels that way. You can just buy the pod. It's super simplistic. It fails very minimally, and it's discreet. The percentages are awesome. The terpene profiles are there. So the True Sticks, I believe, is the way to go. I think almost every single strain we've ever grown has run through a True Stick at some point. If not, it will. It is a valuable tool to have in your arsenal. Beyond that, I really like our stuff that we only have. You know what I mean? Like the THCA powder from Blue River. It's bananas, man. It is bananas. You want to talk about a clear-headed medication? It is. It's, you can put it in a vaporizer pen. We have the Puffco Plus for sale at the store. That is the perfect tool to vaporize that. We have it. You can dab it. You can add it to your joints or pre-rolls. So however you want to use it. That THCA powder is that extra punch you were looking for, without adding lots and lots of psychoactivity. The rosin as well from Blue River. It's just made supremely. And one of my favorites is our crumble. I mean, our crumble, I feel like, comes out in a great consistency. It's easy to handle. It has that entourage effect that you're looking for, without having to, quote unquote, deal with the smell and all those other things. Some of the, like in the True Pod, sometimes it's botanical terpenes, sometimes it's CO2 extracted cannabis-derived terpenes. But this a crumble and the rosin allows you to have that full spectrum, whole plant entourage effect, which I think is so valuable to have on the go, in a concentrated manner. You know what I mean? If I need to calm down before a podcast, or on my way to go speak, you know what I mean? A tug on that crumble that gives that full entourage effect will give me, say, that confidence that I need, to kind of let all the other stuff wash away so I can focus on what I'm doing. So crumble is a really cool effect. If you haven't tried the mints or our tablets, those are awesome. They're like a eucalyptus mint, nano emulsified that technology product where you just pop the guy in your mouth and sublingually it gets into your bloodstream. The chemistry is just, it's crazy. The science behind nano emulsion, taking, like, who thought, let's blast these molecules with sound to make them smaller so we can make them water soluble. Wow. Who thinks about this stuff? You know what I mean? And here it is in cannabis being used here daily. The True Powder, again, water soluble cannabis. I don't like, it sounds like, hey, just a couple of words put together, but that is mind blowing technology. Cannabis is oil soluble. Like oil and water don't mix. You've heard that your whole entire life.
Yeah.
They do now. That's how big this technology is. You can just take a scoop and you can add it to your water. You can add it to your protein shake. You can make it something where it's just, it's an additive to what your daily routine is. In your coffee in your morning, 3 milligrams. Just get your day started and have your cannabis in your body to start. Those are some of my favorites, man.
Well, I was hoping you were going to go through to that many products because my card is starting to get pretty pricey right now, and there goes my stimulus check. But you know what? I think it's all going to a good cause. But no, I think you guys put some great products out there. That, listen, the True Pods and the True Sticks. I try to tread carefully when I talk about some of my experiences, right? Because there's state lines and everything else. But when I first started seeing the vaporizer pens, I was very weary of the black market pens, stayed away from those. They never struck me the right way. I go, nobody is putting the type of care that a professional company would put in and selling these on the black market. And I don't believe that everybody's shipping massive amounts from California, right? So I found a company that I really liked out in California, and we don't need to mention it because I know this is more of a Trulieve podcast, but I found a company that I really liked, and that would be the only place that I would pick them up until they passed smokable flower. I got my card here in the state of Florida, became an actual patient, and I had a True Pod. damn, it was it was one of the best ones I had ever had. And I'm not saying that because you're on the podcast. I know the Trulieve is a sponsor of C Lab, but I try to be as honest as I can when it comes to the products that I try. And I hope that comes through to the people watching at home. But those True Pods and the True Sticks, from a vaporizer standpoint, my biggest problem was trying to find something that's going to give me the closest experience to smoking flower, but through a vaporizer. And the True Stick to me is the closest that I've come. And I can't tell you how happy it is that it's in my state, that it's not something that I'm asking people to send me illegally. It's not something I have to travel for and break laws to get. I can go right to Boynton Beach because I live in Delray Beach, right on Congress Avenue, right
Yes, sir.
behind, I think, the Home Depot or Lowe's that I used to buy a ton of stuff at when I lived in Boynton, and next to the Dunkin' Donuts where I've picked up my coffee and go right into Trulieve and purchase whatever I need. Actually, the first dispensary I went to when I got my card was that Boynton Beach location.
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
So,
We love those first.
yeah,
Shout
man.
out to the Boynton Beach store, man. They are a great team over there. Love those peeps.
Boynton Beach store. Remember this face. I don't need any products or anything else. Maybe a hat, a shirt, something like that. I'm on your side.
Right?
Just putting that out there. um, but no, D, man, listen, I could probably sit here and talk to you for a very, very long time about this stuff. And I know that because we were
Amazing.
talking strains and everything else before we even got on here. But, you know, our audience sometimes has a short attention span. So let's start wrapping this up. Love the recommendations, love the story, love seeing you at C Lab and everything else. Is there anything that you would like to promote before we get out of here? Some of the true talks, some things that you're doing, the education. Let us know, you know, how we can stay in touch with Trulieve and how we can educate ourselves while we're all stuck at home.
Todd, thanks for the opportunity. Yeah, if you want to find us, you can always find us at trulieve.com. Please, 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 again, applications. If you are looking for employment during this time, please apply online. You can find us on Instagram at Trulieve_FL, on Facebook as well. True Talks will continue on through March, and as long as the community wants it, we will continue to keep making them. We'll change different topics and let us know what you want to hear. You can reach us also through our call center or at our stores. We actually have some, you can also email us. So please reach out if you have any questions, even if it's just about product or it's about cannabis questions. We'd love to help. Thank you again for this, the time to hang out, Todd. I really appreciate it.
No, absolutely, man. We'll definitely have you back on because there's so much more that I can talk to you about, and I'm really looking forward to hanging out in person the next time we get to do that. I do the one thing I do want to mention, just because I am a patient here in Florida, and I just want to make sure that people understand. And I'm sure Trulieve does a great job of explaining this, but a lot of people, if you use Jane for delivery or one of those sites, Trulieve delivery is directly on their website. So if you want to get delivery from Trulieve, go to trulieve.com. Do you guys have any other integrations, or is it primarily Trulieve.com?
Just Trulieve.com. You can go to the shop tab, or you can call our call center if you rather just make a phone call.
Yes, for people who like to make a phone call, I am at the point in my life where it blows my mind that I can go on a website and order cannabis. So that's the way that I'm going to stick to it. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. I want to thank everybody for viewing us today. I thought today was extremely informative. I learned a lot about Trulieve today. Dee had a ton of great information. And honestly, to me, it was just a really fun conversation. These are some of the best podcasts that we can have when you just get great people on here who have great information to share, and their stories are amazing. Dee, I can't thank you enough for coming today. Thank you.
So glad to be here, Todd. I'm really thankful.
Absolutely. Well, that ends another episode of Elevate Your Grind. We don't have a formal way to sign out yet. I'm working on that, but please, everybody, we're going to be putting a lot of these out there every week. We're going to go live whenever we can record them. And like I said, we've got a lot of great people that want to be on the show. And right now, everything's being really sporadic because we're working around their schedule. However, we are going to get back to posting these regular. every Monday and Thursday at 4:20. You're going to see one of these interviews that may have premiered already, but we're going to re-premiere them. They're going to be recorded. We'll add a little additional content in there for you. In addition, we're also going to get back to our regularly scheduled C-Lab meetings, but they're going to be virtual. Now, I just do want to point out, as much as we share Elevate Your Grind in some of our seminars for the general public, in order to attend a virtual C-Lab meeting, you do have to be a member. So now is a great time to sign up. We're able to take people from across the country, not just in South Florida, where our group is headquartered. So please, if you want to join C-Lab, you want to check it out, you want to see what it's all about, and join this great group of professionals that is truly becoming the pioneers of the cannabis industry in the state of Florida, please check us out at www.joinclab.com. Check us out on Facebook at the Cannabis Lab group. You can find it at Canna Business Group, and check us out at LinkedIn in our Cannabis Lab group as well. Dee, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to having you back. Hopefully you can give a shout up the chain, tell Kim Rivers, hey, you should go do Todd's show. I keep the Florida State helmet right here, ready for her appearance.
Sounds good, Todd.
All right, we're signing off.
Take it easy.